Our call register service, or CRS, lets your customers call a toll-free number. As soon as this call matures, the CRS platform registers their call or interest and triggers the next action. CRS could send your customers an SMS, play an IVR, or call them back based on their need. Customer information is stored on our CRS servers, and only you can access your data and reports using your login ID and password. With CRS, you can capture user interest about products or services, initiate televoting to gather public opinion, conduct market surveys to understand trends, get customer opt-in on special offers, and enable field force reporting for staff to make reports. TV channels use it for voting, restaurants use it for feedback, and banks use it to initiate callbacks. Even customers at remote locations can access you through CRS. Our service center will assist you with your queries, and our executives will assist you in setting up your CRS. Get call register service for your business. Tata Docomo Business Services, market leaders with the widest range of products and solutions. Reach us today for more information.
I shown you a few pages in the beginning of my presentation. Facebook, Uber, and everyone, they all have used technology. In initial days, they have not paid much for the technology. When they have grown big, they have invested. What I am trying to say, you need technology to move fast, reach more, but don't be afraid that you have to spend more. Most of them are managed. I'm not showing the next video, it is a customer testimonial. I'm already out of my time. So all I want to say that management needs a real-time visibility for employee, production, business, customer, cost. If they have a real-time visibility, then only they can take a real-time action. And all this visibility, best is that you get it on your phone. If you can get those visibility on your phone, how fast and how quickly you reply your WhatsApp. Nowadays you reply your WhatsApp faster than your email. Right or wrong? So if you get the visibility fast, you can do the things. And that's my last slide. Telecom and technology bringing global market closer to smart SME, manufacturing units, any organization you take. So we have no option but to go digital. I know manufacturing industries has already moved towards it, but there are miles to go, and people like us are all around to help you, to partner with you. We don't want to come as a vendor and sell it, but we want to partner with every possible startup, SMEs, and manufacturing unit so that we can help them getting automated, getting digital, and become more precise, faster, and absolutely repeat the same quality one time, every time, always. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Georgie Bose. So as Mr. Georgie Bose receives a memento, let's give him a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, gentlemen. We are honored to welcome GMCV 2030 Chief Guest, Dr. Bart de Groove, Consul General. Can we have a big round of applause to welcome him on stage?
Good evening to all of you. I'll try to get this presentation started. Good evening once again. I must say I'm quite humbled to be here tonight with you. Amidst all these engineers. Jean-François is an engineer, I'm not, I'm just a humble diplomat. And I'm here just because Belgium is the partnering country, and I would like to tell you a little bit more about this country, also from a historical point of view, don't worry, it will be very short, and also show you a little bit what we do. As far as engineering is concerned, I would, from the start already, invite you to come back, not here in Coimbatore, but to come to Delhi and to come to Mumbai in November, because then we will have a very big trade mission coming to India. As a matter of fact, it's a state visit by our king, by the head of state, visiting India because of our 70th bilateral anniversary with India. But in the wake of that state visit, there will be a very big delegation of businessmen, and also, I can assure you, a lot of engineering expertise will be there. So please, the information will be given via our trade offices. You're very welcome to interact with all these companies at that moment. Let me just go back to what I'm here for tonight. Just a small presentation on my country. As my colleague has already said, what we normally, one of our main points that we always make is that we are centrally located. It has been said a couple of times already. And where does it come from, actually? You see us lying there between France, Germany, Britain. If you look at first, a very small introduction comparing us to India. You can't compare us, of course, in terms of surface. You see the figures speak for themselves. We are about 11 million people. That's about the size of Chennai, I suppose. We have a couple of national languages as well. The biggest, one of the biggest differences with India, of course, is our age pyramid. And as you can see, we're talking about innovation a lot here this afternoon. We certainly are in need of innovation, of demographical innovation, actually. So that's one of our main problems. Our pyramid is we have a lot of elderly people. For those who ever wondered where the name Belgium comes from, it comes from a Roman author, Julius Caesar, very famous, of course, who conquered Gaul in the 1st century BC, and famously wrote, we all have to learn that in school, that the tribe of the Belgians was the fiercest tribe he had to conquer. So what happened after the Roman Empire is that you have a split up of Europe, basically in two big political entities, France on the one hand and the German Empire on the other hand, and we are crack in the middle, which makes us actually the place where these two major cultures of Europe, the Latin culture, France, Spain, Italy and so on, and the Germanic culture, Germany, also England and so on, where they meet. It's actually the only country in Europe where these two cultures meet. Yeah, these are a couple of cards. We'll just skip that to just explain it. What happened as a result of all that splitting up of empires and so on is that you have a lot of local authorities coming up. Everybody had to fend for themselves, basically, in the Middle Ages. And that's why, and now I'm adding a little bit of a tourism section to my speech, we have a lot of castles that are testimony to that. A lot of very small political entities, actually duchies, counties and so on, who all defended themselves with very impressive castles, which nowadays have become touristic landmarks. Yeah, I'll skip that. That is just how we evolved. As a matter of fact, we were for a very long time together with Holland, but in the 16th century there was a kind of revolt, and there were two countries that split. The north became Holland and the south became Belgium. Again, the point that I want to make is that a lot of these local entities got a lot of power. I mentioned the counts before and the dukes, but very specific for our country is that not only the nobility had a lot of power, but that the cities had a lot of power themselves. They became independent political entities. They built not only cathedrals, religious architecture, but they built also civil architecture to basically show how proud they were of their independence. This, for instance, is a very famous example, the town hall of Brussels. And a city that you might know a little bit better is Bruges, the same thing. You see there the big tower in the background is actually the tower. It's not a church, it is just a tower that in the Middle Ages was built to protect, it's a kind of safe, to protect the privileges that the city had, the rights that the city had. So it's actually an architecture that shows how much these cities were independent entities. And Bruges, I just mentioned it, the slide is a bit old because they were making, at the time we made the slide for the first time, they made that film P-10, you probably have seen it, which is based in Bruges, the first part of of the film. What I want to say also with this is that there is a sort of similarity. Of course, we can't compare scales and so on, but there is a similarity between India and Belgium in the sense that you have a lot of people living together and that the population is quite dense. The density of population is very high. So the solutions, the problems and the solutions that we have in Belgium and in India, of course, you can't compare the scale again, but we have some difficulties and some solutions that could be parallel. We have to manage our traffic, we have to manage our waste, we have to see energy supply, water supply, and so on. All these things, we have a lot of expertise in those fields because we have been dealing with it for a very long time. Our surface is very small, we have to make the best of that surface, and now the same thing, the same problems, but also the same solutions are popping up on a much larger scale here in India. Yeah, again, back to our history. We become an independent country in 1830. We are a monarchy. I mentioned the king to the right is our present king, and he will be visiting India in November. We are a constitutional parliamentary monarchy. So the monarch is actually, so he's the head of state, but he doesn't really have a lot of power. It's more a symbolic function. We are talking about engineering. Not many people know this, but we were, in the 19th century, a very big manufacturing hub in the world, actually. And as you can see, we were even the 5th industrial nation, being so small as we were, but we were the 5th industrial nation on the planet by the end of the 19th century, with a GDP equal to the USA. It's hardly imaginable today, but it was like that. And we had a lot of industries, some of which still survive. The manufacturing, the traditional manufacturing that we have are those 5: textile, mining, steel, glass, and shipbuilding. Shipbuilding has completely disappeared. Textile has shifted. We don't really make the textile so much anymore, but we make the machinery to make textile. Mining is still there, but it's very, very low, almost nothing. Steel is still there. Mr. Mittal has invested big time in Belgium. And the glass industry is also still there, but also on a much smaller scale. We were a colonial power also in the 19th century. And what is interesting to see also is that as a manufacturing hub, as an industrial hub, not only it was just about production, of course, production you need for economic growth, but it was the people in those days had the foresight, had the mentality to not only just produce, but to make beautiful things with their earnings. And my next slide will show you a couple of realizations that in the 19th century were built with the money that came in from all these industries. Again, as I said, we no longer make castles, we no longer make churches, we no longer make these towers to hold the privileges for the towns, but you have again a new kind of architecture, the modern architecture, modern needs. The building to the right, for instance, is not a church, but it is a railway station. And it gave also, as I said, it gave birth to really industrial art. You know, the Art Nouveau is a very good example of how the new technologies new in those times, of course, steel, glass, were used into new forms of art. So again, it is a sort of, I would say, a call to not only just look at the production side of things, but you also have to think about the quality of life. What do you do with the things you produce? We are in the middle of Europe. It's brought us a lot of advantages in terms of trade, in terms of commerce. It also brought us a lot of problems because our neighbors regularly went to war with each other and we were quite often caught in the middle. For instance, here, this is a very famous reenactment that is taking place every year in Belgium, and it is taking place at a small village just to the south of Brussels, which you all will know. It's called Waterloo. So that is a reenactment of the Battle of Waterloo, which took place in Belgium. Unfortunately, we were also caught in the middle in the First World War, in the Second World War, where the armies of Germany, France, and England and our own army met and fought. And just for your information, my next slide will show you that, there were also a lot of Indian troops fighting in Belgium in the First World War. About 70,000 Indian troops were fighting in Flanders, and they're still honored every year in Flanders for the role they have been playing. After the Second World War, we built the state as we know it now, which we call the welfare state, with a lot of emphasis on health insurance, on social securities, on pension schemes, and so forth. We organized ourselves also institutionally. I've said it's the only country in Europe where the two cultures meet, and our federal state is a sort of reflection of that. We have 3 national languages, 2 of them Germanic, Dutch and German, and 1 Latin, French. Again, being such a small country, being in the middle of everything, we were of course too small to have our own, let's say, role in the world. That is why we've always been very adamant to be part of something bigger. We have always been founding members of multilateral systems such as the European Union, and we were also founding members of the Euro, of the Schengen area and so on, everything, you name it. When it's multilateral, when it's opening borders, we're always part of it. That's the little map where I showed you the languages that we have. And our foreign policy, I've already explained it. We are a big believer in the multinational system because of our size. Headquarters, Jean-François has also mentioned it already. Because, again, we are so small, often headquarters of big organizations, such as the European Union, also NATO, are headquartered in Belgium because the big countries didn't want to give it to another big country, so they compromise and they give it to a small country, and so we always end up actually winning in this game. Our bilateral relations with other countries are traditionally based on trade. Yeah, these are the buildings that I was, the upper one is the European Commission, so that's the European Union. The lower one is just 1 week old, it is the new headquarters of NATO. Belgian economy,